Hello everyone. On the eve of Before Christmas, 2000, a 16-year-old girl named Leanne Tiernan, along with her best friend Sarah Whitehouse, went to a shopping center in downtown London to buy Christmas gifts. After finishing their shopping, the two girls parted ways and took the bus home. No one could have imagined that Leanne, an optimistic girl with outstanding academic achievements, would not return home. This became one of the largest and most resource-intensive search operations in the history of British crime investigation. The City of London, where the incident occurred, is the third largest city in England and has the second largest economy in the United Kingdom after the capital. It is a wealthy and desirable place to live. Leanne, the main character of this story, was born on September 28, 1984. Her parents divorced when she was young. Leanne was an optimistic and strong girl with excellent academic performance at West Leeds High School. She was not only cheerful but also very confident and well-liked by teachers and friends at school. However, a tragedy struck Leanne just before Christmas in 2000. November 26, 2000 was a Sunday, so Leanne didn't have to go to school. She had arranged to meet Sarah, her best friend, at the shopping center in downtown Leeds to buy Christmas gifts. The two girls had a good time together before getting on the bus to head back to the northwest of Leeds. After getting off the bus, the two girls started walking towards a hotel where they said goodbye and each walked home. Leanne had to walk along a dark path through a small forest to get home, while Sarah's house was not far from there. Upon reaching home, Sarah immediately called Leanne to check if she had arrived safely. However, Leanne's mother answered the phone and said that her daughter was not home yet. This made Sarah feel uneasy because although their homes were not far from where they parted ways, she had already arrived home while Leanne had not. Leanne's mother, Sharon Hawkhead, also began to worry, but tried to reassure herself that perhaps her daughter had stopped by some friends' houses on the way home or had something to do nearby. She decided to wait a little longer to see what would happen, but even after 30 minutes from when the two girls had parted ways, Leanne had not shown up. This was very unusual, because if Leanne was going anywhere, had something to do, or met any friends, she would always call home to inform them. However, this time she didn't. Worried sick, Sharon called Leanne's mobile phone, but it just rang and then went to voicemail. She tried calling several more times, but still couldn't reach Leanne. By 7 p.m., Leanne had still not returned home, causing Sharon to fear that something bad had happened to her daughter. She decided to report her daughter's disappearance to the police. Upon receiving the report, the police immediately launched an investigation and dispatched officers to Leanne's house. They planned to conduct a search operation starting around Leanne's home, with the investigation beginning from the spot where the two girls parted ways. On her way home, Leanne had to pass through a forest named Howley Gill, a wild area with dense trees, which was highly likely to be where the disappearance occurred. The police mobilized more than 200 people along with volunteers that night to search the entire forest in hopes of finding Leanne or any clues. Unfortunately, the first day's search yielded no results. On November 27th, when the police traced Leanne's mobile phone, they discovered that it had been turned on briefly before being permanently switched off. They continuously called the phone, but no one answered. The police then expanded their search operation, inspecting around 800 homes, garages, and 150 shops within an 800-meter radius of the forest, but they still found no suspicious clues. Even helicopters and sniffer dogs were deployed in the search, but they provided no useful results. Determined not to give up, the police continued by collecting DNA samples from 140 men in the area. Other agencies such as West Yorkshire Police, the Water Police, the Traffic Police, and the National Search Centre were also mobilized to assist in the search for Leanne. Despite these efforts, they could not find any leads, though they believed Leanne was still alive. As time passed, the chances of finding Leanne dwindled. On December 3rd, a week after her disappearance, local residents joined the effort. A local businessman voluntarily donated £10,000 as a reward for anyone who could find or provide useful clues to the police. Leanne's family hoped that someone could offer clues related to her disappearance. With media attention, the police received many calls from people claiming to have seen someone resembling Leanne. However, after verifying all the information provided, there were no promising results. Leanne's parents agreed to be interviewed by the media, publicly thanking the public for their support and assistance. They emphasized that the family had never given up searching and always hoped for Leanne's safe return. On December 4th, 9 days after the incident, a witness reported to the police that around 5 p.m. on November 26th, the time when Leanne went missing, they saw a man walking a dog near the forest. Although the man's identity was unknown, the witness described him as being about 1.73 meters tall, slightly overweight, with a round face covered in red spots and scars, wearing a black beanie, a coat, and jeans. With the witness's help, the police created a composite sketch of the man and released it widely, hoping someone could identify him. The investigation's scope was further expanded, with the police searching approximately 1,750 buildings, 32 wells and drainage pipes within a 3.2 kilometers radius. The case became the largest search operation ever conducted in West Yorkshire, with even household waste collection temporarily halted so that police could examine all the area's trash bins for clues. Sadly, the investigation stalled due to a lack of crucial leads, and Leanne remained missing without a trace. On August 20th, 2001, 9 months after Leanne disappeared, the police received a call from a man who said he was walking his dog near Linley Woods when he stumbled upon a tightly wrapped object that resembled a human body. Frightened, he immediately called the police. Upon receiving the call, the police swiftly arrived at the location and, upon opening the wrapped object, discovered a lifeless body inside. The body was wrapped in a floral duvet, with a black plastic bag over the head and a leather collar around the neck. The victim's body was encased in 9 green plastic bags with the hands tied behind the back. After the identification process, the police confirmed that the body was Leanne Tiernan, who had been missing for over 9 months. The cause of death was determined to be mechanical asphyxiation. Strangely, the body was very well preserved. Cryobiology experts examined the heart tissue and microstructure, concluding that Leanne had been killed and placed in a refrigerator before being discarded in the forest a few weeks prior. The forensic doctor discovered that the barbed wire tied to her body was a special material produced by a company in Devon, with only a small batch sold on the market. Additionally, red nylon threads were found on her clothes, and a hair on her neck was identified as belonging to a man, likely the perpetrator. Based on this information, the police concluded that Leanne's disappearance had turned into a murder case, which they dubbed Operation Conifer. The location where the perpetrator dumped the body was made public, and locals or anyone frequenting the area were asked to contact the police with any relevant information. Following the discovery of the crime, the police received numerous leads from various sources and collected DNA samples from about 200 people. One of the suspects, John Taylor, born on August 27, 1956, and from Leeds, caught the police's attention. He had divorced his wife about 4 years earlier and currently lived alone near Leanne's home, approximately 1.2 kilometers from the crime scene. The police collected his DNA because witnesses had seen him lingering around the crime area. Neighbors described Taylor as a kind and reliable person who kept many small animals at home. During the investigation, a crucial clue was found. The leather collar around Leanne's neck was produced by a company based in Nottingham. This company had sold 220 similar products to various retailers, and upon checking with the 112th retailer, they confirmed selling these items only by special order. Among the 3 orders delivered to the Leeds area was Taylor's, making him the prime suspect. Moreover, the police discovered that the yellow cables around the victim's neck and hands were manufactured by a company in Italy. This company stated that 99% of their yellow cables were sold to a multinational courier and logistics company in the UK named Royal Mail and its subsidiary, Parcel Force Worldwide. The suspect Taylor worked for this subsidiary. DNA results from the lab further strengthened the evidence when John's DNA matched perfectly with the male hair found on the victim's body. The police also noted some peculiar details related to the evidence at the crime scene. On October 16, 2001, nearly 2 months after Leanne was found, the police collected crucial evidence and promptly arrested John. During the search of his house, they found 3 large refrigerators along with some yellow cables and green plastic bags similar to those used to tie up Leanne. Most importantly, the police discovered some threads on a nail on the floor, which when analyzed matched the threads found on Leanne's clothes. Pollen experts also collected and analyzed flower samples from Taylor's garden, which corresponded exactly with the pollen found in Leanne's nose, skin, and hair, proving she had been in the garden before her murder. Faced with this undeniable evidence, John Taylor admitted his crime. He claimed that on August 26th, the day Leanne disappeared, he encountered her in the wild Howley Gill Forest, grabbed and tied her hands, and took her to his home. He stated that he accidentally killed Leanne during a struggle. However, the police did not believe his statement and thought that John had premeditated the attack on Leanne. After committing the murder, Taylor decided to kill the victim to silence her, using the cables to strangle her to death. Nonetheless, his confession did not match the evidence collected by the police. John claimed that out of fear, he immediately disposed of the victim's body in Linley Wood. However, police information indicated that the victim's body had been stored in a freezer for a long period before being discarded. On February 15, 2002, more than a year after the incident, the trial took place at Leeds Crown Court. Here, John admitted to kidnapping and murdering the victim. The police also discovered other sexual assaults in the area near the forest and suspected that he might have committed more crimes in the past. The investigation revealed that the manner in which the murder was carried out and the body was concealed were meticulously planned by John, indicating that he was a professional killer. Ultimately, the court sentenced John Taylor to life imprisonment. Upon re-investigating previous cases, the police found that on March 1st, 1989, a 21-year-old woman was at home when a masked man broke in, forced her into the bedroom, and raped her at knife point. After analyzing and comparing DNA, they confirmed that the perpetrator was John Taylor. On February 2nd, 2003, John Taylor stood before the court and confessed to 2 old cases. More horrifyingly, dozens of unsolved cases, including 5 murders, were believed to be linked to him. Authorities asserted that he might have been a serial sexual predator for the past 25 years. Ultimately, John Taylor was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Leanne's family held her funeral on September 28, 2001, which would have been her birthday, but she will forever remain 16. This story teaches us the importance of being cautious of others, especially for women when alone, as dangers can unexpectedly arise. There is a young woman named Yatani Maiko, and her husband is Yatani Takahito. One day they were driving out together, but on the way they got into an argument. Extremely angry, Maiko asked her husband to stop the car so she could get out, and from that point on, Maiko completely disappeared without leaving any trace. 2 days later, Takahito went to the local police station to report his wife's disappearance, hoping the police could help him find her. However, during the investigation, the police realized the case was not as simple as what Takahito had reported. This incident occurred in Chiba Prefecture, Japan. Chiba is a prefecture in the Kanto region and an important part of the Tokyo metropolitan area. On the northwestern side of Chiba is a city called Kashiwa, with a population of around 410,000, ranking 5th in the prefecture. Yatani Maiko was born in 1988. Maiko was a lively and intelligent young woman. After graduating from Tokyo Women's University in 2010 at the age of 22, she started working at the Chiba Industrial Bank in Kashiwa City. There, Maiko met Takahito, who was 6 years older than her. They fell in love and got married in February 2012, starting a new life together in the center of Kashiwa City. After 5 years of living together, Maiko gave birth to a daughter. Wanting to provide better care for her child, Maiko quit her job at the bank to become a full-time housewife. In the days that followed, the love between the couple seemed to grow even sweeter, and Maiko would frequently post everyday moments on Facebook, making her friends and family believe her marriage was always very happy. However, is everything that is shown on the outside really the truth? Why did Maiko suddenly disappear mysteriously without any apparent reason? Perhaps there is some underlying cause that has made the case even more mysterious and terrifying. Let's delve deeper into the incident and see what happened. On March 6th, 2018, which was a Tuesday, a 36-year-old man named Yatani Takahito, an employee of a local bank, entered the police station in Kashiwa City, Chiba Prefecture, with a worried expression. He reported that his wife Maiko had gone missing 2 days earlier. He and the family had tried to search for her in every way, but they could not find her, so he hoped the police could help him quickly locate his wife. After hearing the man's report, the police asked him to describe in detail how his wife had disappeared. He said that 2 days prior, he and his wife were driving to the city of their granddaughter, about 6.5 kilometers from Kashiwa City. On the way back, they had a small argument that made his wife angry, and she asked him to stop the car. She then got out and walked to a nearby convenience store. At the time, he thought his wife had gone to buy something and would return shortly, but he waited for an hour and she did not come back. He assumed she had gone somewhere to calm down after their argument, so he drove home to Kashiwa by himself without much concern. However, 2 days had passed and Maiko had not returned home, nor could the family contact her. Worried that something bad might have happened to her, he went to the police station to report her disappearance. He added that they have a 1-year-old daughter waiting at home and they desperately hope the police can help find the mother as soon as possible. After hearing the man's account, the police immediately launched an investigation. Early the next morning, they went to the convenience store he had described to gather more useful information. The police showed the store employees a photo of Maiko and asked if they had seen her come to the store on March 4th, but all the employees said they did not see the woman in the photo visit the store that day. The police have collected surveillance video footage from the convenience store and surrounding roads in an attempt to find traces of the girl. After careful examination, they discovered something strange. A car had been parked near the store for a long time that day, but no one was seen getting out of it. Additionally, the video footage inside the store also showed that Maiko Takahito's wife, never entered the store. However, Takahito insisted that Maiko had gone into that convenience store, which really puzzled the police as they could not understand how Maiko could have suddenly disappeared. After she went missing, Takahito and his family were very worried, so they printed a lot of flyers to notify people about his wife's disappearance. The flyers contained complete information about Maiko, including her name, age, physical description, and the time and place of her disappearance. Notably, the flyer only listed Takahito's email address, not a phone number, which made the police suspicious of his testimony. Normally, when printing flyers to find a missing person, the contact number of the family and the police would be included, so that anyone with information could get in touch. But this flyer did not have that. They gradually began to focus their suspicion on Maiko's husband, wondering if her sudden disappearance was related to Takahito. On March 9th, 5 days after Maiko's sudden disappearance, the police went to the Maiko's apartment on the 10th floor of a condominium to investigate. When they entered, they were very surprised by the clean and orderly state of the house. Not a speck of dust, and there were even no traces of oil or grease under the kitchen. The police tried to find fingerprints but discovered that the entire house seemed to have been completely cleaned and there were no traces left behind. Takahito, Maiko's husband, explained that his wife had severe OCD and would frequently wear gloves when touching anything in the house, which is why there were no fingerprints. Although this explanation seemed plausible, the police were still not fully convinced, as Maiko was also not seen in the convenience store's surveillance video that day, which still had no reasonable explanation. On March the 12th, which was 8 days after Maiko's disappearance, the police believed that Takahito was involved in her disappearance, so they temporarily detained him, hoping he would reveal clues about Maiko's whereabouts. After 4 days of detention and unable to withstand the police pressure, Takahito admitted that his wife had actually been murdered and the perpetrator was no one else but himself. He had previously lied to the police, claiming that his wife had gone missing. Takahito confessed that he had been planning to kill his wife for a long time. On the day of the incident, he had prepared a sleeping pill and mixed it into the curry he made for his wife. The strong curry scent masked the smell of the sleeping pill, so Maiko did not notice it. After she finished eating, they both suggested going for a drive. On the road, the sleeping pill took effect, and Maiko fell into a deep sleep. Takahito then drove to a remote location where he used the rope he had prepared beforehand to strangle his wife until she died. Afterwards, Takahito drove to his parents' home in the city of Toride, Ibaraki Prefecture, about 12 kilometers away from their house, and buried his wife's body in the garden. When the incident was discovered, the police believed that if Takahito had really committed these acts, his parents might also be involved. However, Takahito denied this, insisting that his parents were completely unaware of the crime and that he had carried it out alone while they were away. Although Takahito had confessed to the crime, there were still some doubts in his statements that needed further investigation, especially whether he had any accomplices. After the investigation, the police found that Takahito's father often worked outside and was not at home on weekdays, while his mother, Yatani Emi, was suffering from cancer and had to stay at home most of the time. Additionally, Takahito's 90-year-old grandmother also lived with the family and rarely went out. If the information he provided is true, then the possibility of Takahito being able to kill and bury his wife's body without being detected is quite rare. This would not only require significant physical effort and time, but could also create a commotion and draw unwanted attention from their housemates. After interrogating the members of Takahito's mother's family, they admitted that she had helped her son conceal his crime. Mrs. Emi recounted that Takahito accidentally killed his wife while drunk, and then she decided to help her son hide the body in their backyard. The police discovered that Takahito and his mother had communicated on the Line app about preparing sleeping medication in a coffin. Faced with the evidence uncovered by the police, Mrs. Emi could no longer keep this secret and decided to reveal the entire story. After their daughter was born in 2017, Maiko developed obsessive-compulsive disorder, manifesting in constant hand-washing even right after washing. As a result, Maiko required Takahito to strictly adhere to rules such as wearing shoes indoors, using disposable gloves when touching household items, and removing personal belongings when entering the house. If Takahito failed to comply, he would be punished by being forced to clean the entire house. Over time, this way of living caused Takahito immense suffering. He had to endure the tremendous work pressure every day, and when he came home, he faced even more pressure from his wife, making him feel even more anguished in Maiko's presence. In May 2017, he admitted Maiko to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, hoping the doctors could cure her condition. After the diagnosis, they prescribed several medications for Maiko, and for a brief period, her condition seemed to be improving. However, in October 2017, Maiko's condition deteriorated further as she became impatient with everything and often yelled at and forced their daughter to eat quickly when Takahito was not home. Maiko would often call him, saying that she was angry with their daughter and that he needed to come home quickly or else she didn't know what she would do. Hearing such words, Takahito was forced to take time off work and rush back home. He didn't know what to do as he lived in fear day after day. Takahito wanted to take Maiko to the hospital for an examination, but Maiko refused to go and her condition only worsened. Takahito felt tremendous pressure from work and life, which caused him to unreasonably lash out. As a result, he went to the hospital for a checkup and was diagnosed with depression. After learning this, he became even more distressed, and the idea of making Maiko disappear from his life started to form in his mind, so he immediately went to tell his mother about this crazy plan. Mrs. Emi was shocked to hear this, and tried her best to stop her son's insane idea. She could never allow him to do such a thing. However, perhaps out of love for her son or feeling that she was about to die from cancer, she decided to help her son one last time. On March 2nd, 2018, Takahito's mother told him that his father was not home and that they could dig a hole in the backyard. Upon receiving the call, Takahito rushed home with his mother and they dug a hole to prepare to bury Maiko. 2 days later, Takahito killed Maiko and buried her in the backyard according to their plan. Afterward, he reported to the police that his wife had disappeared and posted many missing person flyers trying to create a false crime scene where the whole family was searching for Maiko. In reality, after the birth of their first child, Maiko had quit her job to stay at home and care for the family. She had complained many times about the difficulty of caring for the child, but her husband did not help, instead spending his days drinking and sleeping in. She just wanted to quickly send the child to daycare so she could go back to work and earn money. On May 22, 2019, the case was brought to trial. Takahito stated that he felt his wife's mental condition was deteriorating, and she was exhibiting a negative trend towards their daughter. To protect his daughter, he felt he had no choice but to take action against his wife. The defense lawyer presented a certificate stating that Takahito was mentally ill and his actions may have been beyond his control, so they requested a reduced sentence from the court. However, the prosecution argued that Takahito did not have evidence to prove his daughter was being abused or her life was threatened. They believed the family had conflicts that could have been resolved peacefully, but Takahito staged a premeditated murder. Takahito viewed killing a living person as a reasonable way to achieve a comfortable life, and displayed a contempt for life. On June 15, 2019, the court sentenced Takahito to 15 years in prison for intentional homicide. His mother was sentenced to 7 years for aiding and abetting the crime. After the incident, Takahito's colleagues were shocked as he had been a respected and polite banker. The daughter lost not only her mother but also the chance to see her father and grandmother, which was heartbreaking for everyone. Wherever there are people, there will be conflicts. When facing problems, we should try to understand each other and communicate in a timely manner to find the best solution. We should never choose an extreme method, like in this case, as it will only harm others and ourselves. All over the streets and alleys of Japan, you can always come across various large and small shrines. The people usually believe that there are deities that exist, and the shrines are where the deities reside. When a person passes away, the soul will depart from the body, and death is not the end, but a transition to another world. Today's story is called The Revenge of the Ghost. A female university student went missing on her way back to the dormitory after a late-night part-time job, and a few days later her body was found in a wilderness area. After 7 years of investigation with no progress, the police finally found the murderer. However, the result has sparked many strange rumors. The story took place in 2009 in the city of Hamada, Japan. This city is located in the western part of Shimane Prefecture, bordering the cities of Masuda and Oda. The main character of the story is Makako Hiraoka, a 19-year-old first-year university student who loves English and dreams of traveling the world one day. To avoid becoming a financial burden on her family, she found a part-time job at an ice cream shop through an agency. Every day after school, Hiraoka would work at the ice cream shop until 9 p.m. and then walk back to the student dormitory, as the distance between the two was only about 2 kilometers. Although it was not far, the road in between was a small, poorly lit street with few houses around, making it very deserted, especially at night. Walking alone at night required a certain level of courage, which was a significant challenge for a young female student like Hiraoka. Initially, Hiraoka had a co-worker who also lived in the same dorm, so after work the two would often walk back to the dorm together without any issues. However, recently Hiraoka's co-workers suddenly quit their job for an unknown reason, forcing Hiraoka to walk back to the dorm alone at night on the dark, deserted road. Like most other girls, Hiraoka was always afraid of walking alone at night, especially on such a dark, unlit road. She felt anxious and unsafe and had considered quitting her job, but little did she know that a horrific tragedy was about to befall her just as she was preparing to quit. So what exactly happened on that day? What misfortunes did Hiraoka face? Let's go back to October 26, 2009 to find out. October 26, 2009 was a Monday, and as usual after her shift, Hiraoka went to the ice cream shop to start her work. At 9 p.m. after her shift ended, since her co-worker had suddenly quit, Hiraoka had to walk back to the dorm alone. Besides having to walk 2 km through that dark, scary road, she had another option: to take the bus from the ice cream shop to the city station and then transfer to another bus to get back to the dorm. However, taking the bus would have incurred additional travel expenses. At the time, Hiraoka thought about it for a bit as she was about to go abroad as an international student and her finances were a bit tight. She thought it would be good to save a little, so she decided to walk back to the dorm alone on the deserted road. After her shift, Hiraoka picked up a trash bag from the shop and left, but no one could have imagined that she would never return. The next day on October 27th, 2009, Hiraoka's parents received a call from the ice cream shop where she worked. Her co-worker said he wanted to ask the parents if they had any way to contact Hiraoka, as she had not shown up for work that day and he had tried calling her multiple times without success. Hiraoka's parents were uneasy because they had also called their daughter that morning, but there was no response. They thought her phone might be malfunctioning, so they didn't worry too much. When they received a call from their daughter's colleague, Hiraoka's parents quickly called the school to check if their daughter was there, but everyone said she had not returned to the dormitory since last night. Hiraoka's parents became increasingly concerned that something was wrong. They had an unsettling feeling that their daughter had met with misfortune, so they immediately reported it to the police. More than a week had passed since Hiraoka was reported missing, and the police investigation was still ongoing, but no clues about the girl had been found yet. On the morning of November 6, 2009, a man walking in the Garyu Mountain area on the border between Hiroshima and Shimane prefectures suddenly discovered a round object in a pile of fallen leaves. As the man approached and examined it closely, he discovered that it was the head of a young woman. Alarmed, the man hastily reported it to the police. When the police arrived at the scene, they found signs of strangulation on the victim and numerous bruises on her face, indicating that she had been beaten before her death. Based on the short haircut, the victim was strongly suspected to be Hiraoka, who had gone missing more than a week earlier. The police then conducted a DNA test of the victim and confirmed that the results matched Hiraoka's parents. Hiraoka's parents were devastated by this horrific news, and the discovery of the decapitated head also caused great distress and fear among the local residents. The police are making continuous efforts to solve the case as quickly as possible in order to restore a sense of security for the community. Since the incident occurred in the Garyu Mountain area straddling Hiroshima and Shimane prefectures, police forces from both prefectures have been mobilized, and a special investigation team has been established. A large number of police officers have been deployed to the Garyu Mountain area to search in the hope of finding the rest of the victim's body. Afterwards, the police found a left femur bone that had been stripped of flesh near the entrance of the forest, and the victim's torso and limbs were also found in the eastern area of the forest. In addition, the police discovered some animal feces mixed with human fingernails about 300 meters from the top of the mountain. DNA testing confirmed that these samples belonged to the victim Hiraoka. Based on the evidence collected, the police estimated that Hiraoka was murdered sometime between October 26th and 31. They believe the initial crime scene was not where the head was found. The police conducted a search of the abandoned houses in the Mount Garyu area, hoping to find the main crime scene, but they did not obtain any results. Based on the injury to the victim's neck, the police believe that Hiraoka may have been strangled to death and dismembered before the perpetrator took the body up the mountain and disposed of it. However, they have not ruled out other possibilities. The police are making efforts to deploy more investigative forces in order to quickly apprehend the murderer and allay the public's concerns. During the examination, the police also found some vinyl plastic fragments on Hiraoka's body. After checking and analyzing, they learned that this was packaging material for phone directories. The police traced the origin of this material, which was manufactured in 1995 and distributed in the cities of Miyoshi, Rikuzen Takata, Higashiroshima, Kure, and Mihara. The disappearance of Hiraoka occurred in a rather remote location deep in the mountains. The police quickly approached the scene, but the traces were very scattered, as if the incident had occurred in multiple locations. A man living nearby provided some important information to the police, saying that he usually saw a car speeding through the area around 9 p.m., but he had not seen that car since the incident occurred. The police carefully reviewed the security cameras around the area but found no clues related to Hiraoka after she disappeared. At the end of October, they conducted investigations from various angles, including interviewing Hiraoka's friends and students. They found that Hiraoka was a cheerful, modest, and kind girl who was very studious and did not have many social relationships. Hiraoka also did not have a boyfriend, so the police ruled out the possibility of a conflict over a romantic relationship. Along the route from the dormitory to the place where Hiraoka went missing, the police found a black athletic shoe, but could not determine if it belonged to Hiraoka. At the scene, a witness said he had seen a girl get into a silver Toyota car that night, but it was too dark for him to see the license plate clearly. After checking the cameras, they found that Hiraoka had left her part-time job at the ice cream shop at 9:16 p.m. wearing a black and white striped shirt and carrying a black garbage bag, which was the last footage of her on camera. The distance from the shopping center to the dormitory where Hiraoka usually walked is about 2 kilometers. Along this road, there is a secluded area with no lighting, which becomes particularly frightening after 9 p.m. when there are fewer people passing by. According to the witness's account at the corresponding time, Hiraoka got into a car instead of walking back to the dormitory as usual. This has made the case more complicated, as it could be a random crime. The police have invited criminal psychologists to study the psychology of the perpetrator, and they believe that when the perpetrator saw Hiraoka walking alone on the deserted road, he may have had malicious intentions towards her. Based on the clues, they suspect the perpetrator is a man aged around 20, 40, and single. However, due to a lack of new leads, the case has reached a deadlock. The media is reporting that the perpetrator may still be hiding in Shimane Prefecture, which has caused great concern and fear among the residents. After the incident, the police have asked university students in the prefecture not to go out alone at night, and it is best not to walk back to the dormitory alone. The curfew time for the dormitories has also been changed from 12 a.m. to 10 p.m. The local government has also asked the relevant agencies to increase the installation of streetlights and surveillance equipment, as well as to increase security patrols at night to ensure the safety of the citizens. However, contrary to the efforts of the government, a supernatural event occurred on a deserted road. Many people reported hearing a strange sound that seemed to be the voice of a woman, but the sound was too faint to make out the content. The incident quickly attracted media attention and became a nationally famous case. Although the police have made efforts to investigate, the murderer seems to have disappeared from the world, so this case remains unsolved and the story is not yet over. 7 years after the incident in 2016, the Japanese police mobilized more than 310,000 police officers and set up special rewards to search for useful clues related to the case, with rewards of up to 3 million yen per day. After the case attracted widespread attention in the community, the Japanese police have tried their best to investigate and distribute countless leaflets in the hope of finding the perpetrator. Finally, the case had a breakthrough when the police classified all the files on sex crimes. They found a man named Yoshiharu Yano, who grew up in the city of Shimonoseki, Yamaguchi Prefecture. His father owned a rice shop and his mother was a laundress, and the Yano family had 2 brothers, with Yano being the eldest. Due to his excellent academic performance, he was always a source of pride for his parents. For some unknown reason in 2004, he suddenly dropped out of university and returned to his hometown. He had previously been sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison for following a woman and threatening her with a knife in the Tokyo area. It wasn't until May 2009 that he was released from prison, and after his release, he returned to his hometown to work for a solar energy company. With his outstanding performance, the company entrusted him to be in charge near the Shimane Prefectural University. At the time of the incident, he was living in the city of Masuda. An investigation revealed that on November 6, 2009, the day Hiraoka's body was found, Yano, who had never taken a sick day before, requested 2 days off from his company. On November 8th, to take his mother to visit his father's grave, his car suddenly caught fire on the road for an unknown reason. When they arrived at the scene, the police found 2 charred bodies and there were no signs of the sudden breaking at the scene. Witnesses said the car kept colliding with the barrier before smoke came from the hood and then suddenly burst into flames. These strange car accidents usually attracted a lot of attention, but at the time, the local media were all reporting on the Hiraoka case, so no one noticed it. 7 years later, the police were extremely surprised to discover Yuno's burned-out car near the location where Hiraoka's body was found on October 26, 2009. The car caught fire between night and early morning on October 26th, which brought an important turning point to the Hiraoka case. The police then went to Yuno's house in Masuda City to investigate, where they found a camera and a USB drive left by Yuno for his younger brother. When the data was recovered, the police found 57 photos, including images showing Hiraoka tied up in Yuno's bathroom with scratch marks on her neck. After removing the duplicate photos, the police had about 40 photos as key evidence for this case. However, due to the horrific nature of these photos, the police have not yet made them public. The Hiraoka case was finally brought to light on December 20th, 2016. The police announced that the 7-year-old case had been solved and that they had sufficient evidence to prove that the perpetrator was Yoshiharu Yano, who had died in a car accident 7 years earlier. However, since Yano had already passed away, the prosecutor's office decided not to prosecute the Makako Hiraoka case anymore. The strange thing is that after Yuno died in a car accident, some people believe it was a simple accident, while others think Yuno may have committed suicide out of fear of being caught, or that this was the revenge of the ghost girl. On July 24th, 1991, a mysterious event occurred in the city of Tamura, Fukushima Prefecture, Japan. In a 2-story house, a 7-year-old girl named Ishii Mai mysteriously went missing in the presence of 8 members of the family. The Ishii family consisted of Ishii Kenichi, 37 years old, the owner of a local construction company, and his wife Ishii Yoshiko, 27 years old. They had 3 children: Ishii Mai, 7 years old, Ishii Kento, 6 years old, and Ishii Reo, 1 year old. In addition, the family included the 74-year-old grandfather and 66-year-old grandmother, as well as Ryoko, a cousin of Mai, who was also living with them. On the fateful day, in addition to the 3 children of the family, there were 2 other girls who were the daughters of Yoshiko's friend visiting to play at the house. In the joyful and peaceful atmosphere, the child Ishii Mai suddenly disappeared, causing the whole family to panic and search frantically. However, despite their best efforts, the family could not find Mai anywhere. This was truly the most mysterious disappearance case without any resolution, and it shocked both the family and the Japanese community. The cheerful children were playing together at the Ishii family home, and the 2 girls who were Yoshiko's friends were allowed by their parents to stay overnight. Additionally, Kazuya Tamagawa, 22 years old, an employee of the Ishii family's company, and Ryoko's boyfriend occasionally stayed at the Ishii house due to the nature of his work. On that afternoon, some of the children had gone to Tamagawa's room to play video games, and he ended up staying at the Ishii house that night. Around 8:50 p.m., Mai's father took the 2 boys upstairs to the bedroom designated for the Ishii couple and their 3 children. However, since there were 2 additional girls visiting, a separate room with a double bed was prepared for the 3 young girls. In the meantime, the Ishii grandparents, who lived on the first floor, instead of going to sleep that night, felt very excited and decided to go to a nearby karaoke bar to enjoy the nightlife. Around 9:30 p.m., the 3 young girls had also gone to their room to sleep. Before going to her room, Mai led her 2 friends into the room and saw that her father and 2 siblings were already asleep. The young girl suddenly remembered that her mother had told her not to sleep in that room but to sleep in the next room instead, so she led both of her friends to the next room. The 2 friends were very fond of Mai, so they let Mai lie in the middle while they lay on either side. After a while, all 3 of them fell into a deep sleep. Mai's mother, who had been busy all day, saw that the 3 girls had fallen asleep, so she proceeded to do some household chores like tidying up the children's toys and preparing breakfast for the next day. Around 10:30 p.m., Mai's mother went into the room, pulled the blankets over the 3 girls, and turned off the light before leaving. However, little did anyone know that this would be the last time she would see her beloved daughter. Afterwards, she went to the bathroom on the 2nd floor. While in the bathroom, she heard the sound of the door downstairs opening, which struck her as strange. She wondered if Mai's grandparents had returned home early. Curious, she pushed open the bathroom window and looked down, only to see the employee, Tamagawa, hurriedly walking out. Yoshiko thought that he might have gone out to drink with friends, so she didn't pay much attention. After using the bathroom, she heard the sound of the door opening downstairs again and footsteps coming up to the 2nd floor. Tired from the busy day, she turned off the living room light and went to bed with her husband and 2 sons, not thinking much about the strange noises. Around 2 a.m., when Mai's grandparents returned from the bar, they found the door unlocked even though it was quite late. Finding this strange, the 2 grandparents locked the door and went to check the employee's room, but he was not there. This puzzled them further, as they had clearly seen him turn off the light and go to sleep earlier. The 2 elderly grandparents went up to the 2nd floor to ask their son if he knew where the employee had gone, but Ishii had just woken up and was not fully alert, so he only responded in a dazed manner that he would check it later. The next morning at 4:30 a.m., Mai's father woke up early as usual to start a new workday as he worked in the construction industry and was accustomed to early mornings. When he got to the office, he noticed that the door was unlocked again, but he didn't think much of it and just started his work as usual. At 5:30 a.m., the two roommates of Mai woke up and discovered that Mai was not in the room. They immediately went out to find an adult, and Mai's father was the first to be notified. He woke up the entire family and organized an urgent search in every corner of the house, but they still could not find little Mai. Therefore, he called the police. After the police arrived and were briefed, they also got a general understanding of the case. The employee, Tamagawa, was said to have gone out the previous night for an unknown reason and had not reported it to anyone until the morning when he still had not returned, so the police suspected that he was the one who had taken Mai away. At 6:30 a.m., Tamagawa returned home, and the police immediately restrained him and questioned him about where he had taken little Mai, but he claimed to know nothing. When asked about going out the previous night, he said that around 10 p.m. he had gone out to a public phone booth to call his friend in Koriyama. Koriyama is also a city in Fukushima Prefecture, about 25 kilometers away from Tamura City, where Mai's family lives. Through the phone call, he felt that his friend was in a bad mood, so he decided to immediately drive there to look for his friend. However, his car had a dead battery, so he had no choice but to go to the train station, but the last train had already departed, so he had to take a taxi to Koriyama. When he arrived, he could not find his friend at the planned location, so feeling tired from the trip, he rested on a store's bench overnight. The next morning, he returned to the company, and when he heard the police report, he was surprised to find himself suspected of being involved in the incident. The police then conducted a series of investigations and discovered some clues. Mai is a very shy girl who even dares not go to the toilet at night and usually sleeps in the room with her parents and younger brother. This was the first time she did not sleep with her parents, so it is possible to rule out the possibility that she went out on her own and someone must have taken or lured her out. Tamagawa was the only one in the house other than the two guest girls, and Mai's grandparents also went out that night. This makes the case even more complicated as the new details raise many questions about Mai's disappearance. However, it is completely impossible for the elderly couple to harm their granddaughter, and the police could not find a clear motive. Therefore, the only outsider, Tamagawa, is the one who is most suspected, while Mai's cousin Ryoko is at her mother's house in Koriyama and has an alibi. The two girls who slept with Mai said that last night they heard the sound of a man talking to Mai, but they don't remember the exact conversation, and they both said a man had come into the room. One of the girls said that when they were playing video games together in the employee's room that afternoon, they heard him say to Mai, "Do you want to go out with me in the evening?" However, the police believe that Mai's mother instigated the girls to say that, so they did not accept it as evidence. The police searched Ishii's house, but apart from the residents, they did not collect fingerprints from anyone else. The police also brought a sniffer dog to search for Mai, but the dog only tracked Mai's scent to the main entrance on the first floor and then stopped. Therefore, it can be inferred that Mai had walked to the back door and then been picked up or abducted by someone. A local resident had seen a white car parked by the side of the road with the trunk open that night, and the car was trying to start. The person thought it was someone whose car had broken down and was parked by the side of the road, but the next morning the white car had disappeared. After checking with all the neighboring households around Ishii's house, the police found that none of the families had a white car. Therefore, it can be inferred that the car was a stranger's, and very likely the one that had taken Mai away. Basically, the clues that have been identified point to the employee as the main suspect and the only suspect. However, the Ishii family at the time did not want to do anything to him, they just wanted to find their daughter. The family demanded that he reveal Mai's whereabouts, but he insistently claimed he knew nothing. He admitted that he had actually gone to meet a friend that night, but he didn't expect so many things to happen after he got home. People thought he was the perpetrator, but they didn't expect the Japanese police to release him after 2 weeks of investigation, as 2 witnesses had proven he was not present at the scene, and he also did not have enough time to commit the crime. The first witness was a taxi driver who testified that he had waited for the man to go to Koriyama that night. The second witness was a customer service employee on Koriyama Street who said he had seen Tamagawa lying on a bench near the department store around midnight, and they even had a brief conversation. With these 2 witnesses, it can be proven that the employee's statement to the police was truthful. The last time Mai's mother saw her was at 10:30 p.m., which was also when the taxi driver picked up the employee, so he could not have kidnapped and transported her in such a short time. In addition, the Japanese police evaluated that the employee was not lying based on his statement and cooperation at the police station, so he was released. The case is closed, and no one knows who actually kidnapped Mai. Mai's father insists that it was the employee who kidnapped her, citing the employee's habit of drinking. In fact, the relationship between the two has never been good, and if the employee was not his daughter's boyfriend, he would have fired him long ago, so it is very possible that the employee had a grudge and wanted to take revenge by kidnapping his daughter. He explains that this employee has a very high motive for the crime because his car battery has been dead for a long time and he has been driving the company car out at night frequently in recent days. However, why did he take his own car out that night? Was he out of his mind? But this is just an assumption and reasoning of Mai's father without any specific evidence. Mai was a petite, beautiful, and very lovely girl, so when she disappeared, the whole family felt like they had lost their souls. Afterwards, Mai's father decided to close the company to focus all his energy on finding his daughter. And he had someone monitor the employee 24/7 but still found no clues. The hope of finding Mai is becoming increasingly slim, as there is really no one else suspected to be the perpetrator, and the police are also powerless after this incident. Even the employee is suffering greatly because Mai's family believes he is the one who kidnapped their daughter, but in fact he is completely innocent. To this day, 32 years have passed, but there is still no result on any information about little Mai. The entire search so far has mobilized 3,900 police officers and investigated more than 6,000 locations, such as companies, residences, vehicles, hillsides, and even rivers, but all to no avail. On July 24, 2006, after 15 years since the disappearance of little Mai, the statute of limitations for prosecution has passed, but the truth surrounding this case remains a big mystery, leaving the girl's disappearance an unsolved case. If Mai is still alive today, she would be 39 years old, even though the media has continuously published many of her childhood photos. However, over the years, she has changed greatly as she has grown up, making the hope of finding her very fragile. Despite the many years that have passed, the hope that little Mai is still alive and could return to reunite with her family remains. Her family and the community continue their relentless efforts to find her, hoping to get answers about her fate. Today's story is about a young woman named Ejiri Miho, born on July 15, 1988. After graduating from high school, she took a job as a sales clerk at a dim sum restaurant, but due to back pain, she decided to quit. Miho then found a new job in the service industry where she quickly became one of the most renowned employees in the region. But she had a weakness. She was stalked by some customers, which caused her a lot of trouble. This incident drew a lot of attention in the service industry community in Japan, especially in the Akihabara district, known for its many toy, souvenir, and anime-related shops, as well as the most famous electronics district in Japan. Here, there are also many household items, computer parts, game consoles, and other products for sale, but the most famous are the maid cafes that have opened in this area. One of the famous services in Japan is the ear cleaning service, where customers are served by young, beautiful women dressed in traditional yukata. After entering the store, customers are led to a small room with tatami mats, where the beautiful female staff will kneel down and let the customer rest their head on their lap, while also preparing the tools to perform the ear cleaning service. In addition, they also provide additional services such as neck and foot massages to help customers relieve stress after a long, tiring day. The incident involving an earwax removal employee in Akihabara has drawn special attention to this service industry in Japan, reflecting part of the culture and daily life of the people here. Miho, after quitting her job at a certain store, started working at an earwax removal shop in Akihabara in January 2008. After a period of working at the shop, she had built up her own client base as she was very skilled and had a high learning spirit. When serving different customers, she would adjust the intensity of her gestures to suit each one. Additionally, she would listen and chat with them during the service, and gradually, Miho was highly praised by many customers, with many becoming her regular clients. Miho did not use her real name while working, but instead used the stage name Marina. She was not an exceptionally beautiful person, but became very famous in the earwax removal service industry. She always applied light makeup and had a cute style, which made her popular with many customers. Soon after entering the profession, Miho became the top earner in the shop with a maximum monthly income of up to 680,000 JPY, a fairly large sum of money for a girl who had only completed high school. Due to her success in the job, Miho was invited to appear as a guest on a television program to introduce her earwax removal service. However, just as her career was on the rise, Miho encountered an unfortunate incident directly related to the work she was doing. So what happened to Miho on that day, and what did she have to endure and go through? The story begins in February 2008 on a cool spring day. A 40-year-old man named Hayashi Koji was browsing the web when he accidentally discovered a highly rated earwax removal shop in Akihabara. He decided to try the service and made an appointment under the name Yoshikawa. The man's home was in Chiba City, a Tokyo suburb about 40 kilometers from Akihabara, so he took the train to get there. It wasn't long before Koji arrived in Akihabara and went to the ear cleaning shop where he had made a prior appointment. The basic service at this shop was 30 minutes for 2,700 JPY. If he wanted a longer service, such as 1 hour, he would have to pay 4,800 JPY, and if he wanted to request a specific staff member, he would have to pay an additional 500 JPY. This was a standard ear cleaning shop that did not provide any special services, and customers were not allowed to touch the staff during the process. Coincidentally, the staff member serving Koji this time was Miho. From the very first time he saw Miho, Koji was deeply attracted to her cute appearance and sweetness, and the ear cleaning process also made him feel very comfortable. A few days later, Koji returned to the shop and paid an additional 500 JPY to request Miho's exclusive service. Besides work, Koji lived alone in an apartment, so he had a lot of free time. He would often stop by the shop even though the round trip would take 2 hours by train. Koji would always book a 1-hour package initially, then gradually increase it to 2 or 3 hours. At least 3 times a week on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Koji would visit the shop and request Miho's service. However, too frequent ear cleaning could lead to ear canal inflammation, so Miho did not dare to clean his ears too much. Instead, they would sit and chat, watch movies, play games, and eat sweets. The longest Koji stayed in the shop was 8 hours, and the amount he paid for a single day was not less than 10,000 JPY. On July 15, 2008, it was Miho's 20th birthday. Although Koji had to go to work, he had taken the day off to dedicate it to Miho's special day. That day, he was dressed neatly and had prepared a birthday gift waiting for Miho outside the shop. When Miho saw Koji, she felt a bit surprised. Since starting this job, she did not want to have any outside contact with customers, as she had previously had unpleasant experiences with customers approaching and harassing her. She immediately ran upstairs to report to the manager, hoping the manager could counsel him. Hearing Koji's gloomy and lonely words, Miho also thought a lot and was afraid she would become a victim of harassment again. The next day, Koji came back to the store to bring up the incident from yesterday, but Miho said she had experienced that before and felt terrible, so she didn't want to. However, through his subtle words, Koji made Miho trust him and put aside her past sorrows, and things became good again. Miho's charming appearance and gentle, caring personality captivated Koji, and he even smiled contentedly when he saw her. From December 27, 2008 to January 4, 2009, Koji used the ear cleaning service a total of 154 times just to get close to Miho. Koji's colleagues also felt that something good must have come to him in the past 41 years. After getting to know each other, Miho and Koji gradually bridged the gap and conversed like normal friends, which gave Koji a lot of hope. During one conversation, he asked Miho if he was handsome. Although Miho was a server, she did not want to offend anyone, so she replied that he was a little more handsome than average. The relationship between Miho and Koji continued to develop, and he was no longer satisfied with just meeting her at the store. Koji again proposed that Miho go on a date outside the store, but she refused, citing the store's rules that did not allow that. Miho showed him a photo of her family, emphasizing that she did not live alone to avoid as much trouble as possible. Rejected in his feelings, Koji was very annoyed and specifically sought help from the store manager, but the manager also refused and reminded him to pay attention to the rules. However, he would not listen, and they even had an argument afterwards. As for Koji's background, after graduating from a vocational school in electricity, he went to work as a repair technician for an electrical equipment distribution company. Koji is an introverted, serious person, unlike most of his male colleagues, and he never parties. Even when attending company-organized parties, he just quietly sits and drinks tea. In fact, Koji does not dislike drinking alcohol, but he cannot drink alcohol for health reasons. At the age of 26, Koji was diagnosed with a connective tissue disease, with symptoms such as rashes, unexplained fever, joint swelling and pain, and muscle aches. After a period of treatment, his condition was well controlled, but he still had a risk of relapse, so Koji had never intended to marry anyone. His family has 4 people, including his parents and a younger brother. At the age of 28, he left his hometown to establish a career in Chiba City, and has lived as a bachelor for many years. It can be said that Koji has not won the hearts of women and has never dated anyone. Although he has a savings account of up to 10 million JPY and a stable monthly income, most of this income is spent on ear cleaning services. As for Miho, in order to maintain her income source, she is reluctant to offend her regular customers, so she still serves them. On April 5th, 2009, after experiencing Koji's service, he invited Miho to dinner, but was rejected because she already had a date with a friend. He tried to persuade Miho to have dinner the next day with a coercive tone, and she had no choice but to fearfully agree. After the conversation, Miho cried to her colleagues and begged the manager to ban Koji from the store, and from then on, Koji could no longer contact Miho. Although Koji called and sent apology messages, they were all ignored by Miho. In early May 2009, Koji waited outside the store and secretly followed Miho home after her shift, but Miho did not notice that someone was following her. After a few days, Koji found Miho's home and stood nearby, waiting for her to return. When she saw him, she was very frightened, but Koji begged her not to ignore him, but still was rejected by Miho. Since then, Miho has had to ask her colleagues to give her a ride home to avoid being harassed. On July 19th, he was waiting for Miho on her way home, and when he saw her, he ran to her and grabbed her hand, saying he couldn't sleep all day because he missed her, and asked if he could continue to accompany her to the store where she worked. After hearing this, Miho felt disgusted and frightened. She begged Koji to leave her alone, then ran straight to a nearby convenience store and called the police. When the police arrived, they heard Miho's account of the incident but found nothing unusual in the area. From that day on, Koji was unable to meet or contact Miho again, which only made him more angry and led to his evil intentions. Early in the morning on August 3rd, 2009, Koji left his home carrying a hammer, a kitchen knife, and a fruit peeler and went to Miho's house. Coincidentally, her house was unlocked that day, so he easily burst in. Miho's 78-year-old grandmother was startled by the presence of a stranger in the house and cried out in alarm. Seeing the situation, Koji immediately attacked and killed the elderly woman with the hammer. He then went upstairs to Miho's room where she was still sleeping and repeatedly stabbed her, seriously injuring her. Miho's mother and younger brother were also home at the time and quickly ran outside to call the police. Koji did not try to flee, but sat on the ground with a dazed look, unable to believe what had happened. He then went into the bathroom, undressed, and he tried to escape, but the police had already surrounded the house and apprehended him. Miho's 78-year-old grandmother died on the spot, and Miho was rushed to the hospital, but could not be saved from the clutches of death. It was a tragic loss. After a month, Koji's case was brought to trial at the Tokyo court in October 2010. He was charged with premeditated murder, and the prosecution requested the death penalty. In court, Koji admitted to his crimes and sincerely apologized to the victim's family. After a 2-week trial, the court has issued a verdict. The presiding judge stated that Koji's criminal motive was selfish and impulsive. However, the court was moved by the feelings of the surviving victims and the deep remorse of the defendant. Therefore, the court unanimously decided not to sentence Koji to death, but instead a life sentence. After hearing the verdict, he announced that he will comply and not appeal. With this case now closed, Miho was a gentle and beautiful girl from a young age. She was very diligent in her studies. But due to various reasons during high school, her grandfather's temperament became very irritable, even wanting to kick Miho's father out of the house. After these events, Miho decided not to continue studying, but to go to work, in the hope of saving money to help her parents buy their own house, as at that time her family was living in her grandparents' home. Miho's father was very saddened by the incident. He shared that he wished he could have risked his own life to protect his daughter, but could not. In their teenage years, father and daughter had very little conversation, and now it was too late. On Miho's birthday, he gave her a bottle of wine, which made him very happy, but on August 3rd, his life was destroyed. Seeing his daughter's swollen face in the hospital, the medical tubes attached to her body, and those wounds, he could not alleviate the pain in his heart. His daughter must be suffering greatly from the incident. His wife was in shock, causing mental instability, and the fear haunted the whole family completely, disrupting their lives. He knew he had to be strong and be a firm support for the family, but the tears kept flowing. He could not forgive the perpetrator, but he could not do anything. At first, Koji had a good job and had the right to pursue love, but he had made the life of Miho's family increasingly worse. He had used an extremely wrong way to resolve his emotional problems, ultimately leading to this tragic sorrow. In the basement of a house in Long Island, USA, there was an old heavy metal barrel weighing hundreds of kilograms. The house that contained this barrel had been owned by many different people over the past 30 years, but it had never been opened. One fine day, a man out of curiosity opened the metal barrel, and upon doing so, he discovered a horrifying secret that had been concealed for the past 30 years. This story took place in 1999 in a region in the state of New York, USA. New York is one of the states with the most developed economy in the country, and the specific location was Long Island. an island located in the southeastern part of New York State, where a homeowner named Ron Cohen had lived for 9 years. In 1999, Cohen had plans to move elsewhere, but while clearing out his house, he accidentally discovered this metal barrel, which he would never forget for the rest of his life. On September 2, 1999, which was a Thursday, Cohen was making plans to move and had already cleared out all the unnecessary items. Early that morning, he hired some movers and a truck to help with the move. They carefully packed up all the large and small items, but the move did not take long before one of the movers found the large metal barrel in the basement. The surface of the barrel was faded, and the writing on it was not clear, suggesting that it had been there for many years. A mover was trying to lift the heavy metal barrel out of the basement, but despite his best efforts, the barrel would not budge, so he called 2 other people to come and help. Finally, after much effort, the 3 of them were able to move the barrel from the basement to the front of the house. When they went outside, one of them told the homeowner that the barrel was too heavy for them to lift into the vehicle, so they could only move it to that location. The homeowner looked at the barrel and realized it was the same one he had intended to discard 9 years ago when he moved into this house, but had left it there because it was too heavy. Curious to know what was inside the barrel, the homeowner took an iron rod and pried the lid off. At that moment, a foul odor wafted out, causing the homeowner to reel. Looking inside, he saw a shoe and a human hand, and in a panic ran into the house to call the police. Soon after, the police arrived on the scene and set up a barrier around the barrel to prevent curious onlookers from approaching. Suspecting a body was inside, they wanted to preserve the crime scene for investigation. The police then transported the entire barrel to their forensics lab to conduct the necessary examinations. The barrel had a capacity of approximately 208 liters and weighed around 160 kilograms, which meant the lab technicians had to spend nearly 3 hours carefully extracting all the items from the steel container. Inside, they found a woman dressed in neat but old-fashioned attire, as if from 40 years ago. Alongside the body were numerous plastic beads, black and white photographs, and a green liquid substance. In addition to the woman, the steel barrel also contained a handbag. Inside the bag were a makeup case, a comb and eyelash curler, an address book, 2 metal rings, and a metal necklace engraved with the words, "To Patrice, love Uncle Phil." Among the items, the address book was the most crucial, as it could potentially help the police verify the identity of the deceased. However, the book had been submerged in liquid for so many years that it had softened to the point where a pen could be pushed through it, making the contents inside very difficult to decipher. The forensic examination results showed that the victim was pregnant for nearly 9 months, and the cause of death was due to being hit multiple times at the back of the head with a hard object. The police began verifying the victim's identity. They were searching for a petite, Spanish-speaking woman around 1.5 meters tall in the list of missing persons in New York State. However, this criteria was not sufficient, as there were too many missing persons matching this description, so the police decided to focus on the physical evidence in the metal drum, which still had the serial number and the name of a chemical factory. The police then investigated in New Jersey, where the chemical factory was located, in the hope of finding useful clues to confirm the victim's identity. According to the factory's serial number, the drum had been manufactured 34 years ago in 1965 and was used to store dye. However, the man working at the factory said that the dye had stopped being produced since 1971, and the police also investigated the Cohen household. The police then went to Cohen's house to ask where the metal drum came from, and he said he had it for 9 years before moving to the new house. When he found the drum, he was curious about what was inside, but when he saw the chemical symbol, he abandoned the idea of checking it. The police found Cohen to be calm and not showing signs of lying, so they excluded him from the list of suspects. Through the investigation, the police learned that the house had gone through 4 owners, and through the previous owners, they determined that the metal drum had existed with the first owner in the 1960s. The first owner was Mr. Howard B. Elkins, who is now retired and living in Florida. The police found and interviewed the elderly neighbors around the house to ask about the first owner of the house. They said the first owner was Mr. Elkins, the owner of a company who ran several plastic manufacturing companies in Manhattan. When the police heard the word plastic, they immediately thought of the plastic beads around the metal drum, and the first homeowner, Elkins, was the owner of a plastic manufacturing plant. Could they be related? From the above suspicions, the police investigated the trail and found that Elkins had previously been a shareholder in a company that mainly produced plastic flowers, plastic grass, and other plastic decorative items in the 1960s. At the same time, the police also knew that during that time, The plastic factory had also purchased a batch of dyes from a factory in New Jersey to dye the plastic grass, plastic flowers, and other decorative products. The information about the discovery of a woman in the metal drum quickly spread through the media. Soon after, the police received a secret call from a stranger who said he knew some secrets about the metal drum containing chemicals in which a woman was found. The caller said that although he did not know who the person inside the drum was, he knew that a person named Elkins, a shareholder of the plastic factory, had had a romantic relationship with a woman at the factory in the 1960s. This coincidence further reinforced the police's suspicions. Based on the information they had, the police decided to go to Elkins to investigate. At that time, Elkins was 70 years old and had retired, and he had moved to Florida a long time ago. When the police arrived, Elkins was unwilling to cooperate, but still reluctantly invited the police into his home. The police showed him a photo and asked if Elkins' factory had ever used metal drums like that to store dyes. Elkins replied that his factory had never used such metal drums. The police continued to ask if Elkins had ever used blue dye in his factory, and Elkins said that his factory had never used chemicals. However, the police knew that before meeting Elkins they had conducted a very thorough investigation into his company, but Elkins' answers were completely contradictory to the results of their investigation. It was clear that Elkins was lying, and the more he denied, the more the police felt that he was the person they were looking for. The police continued to interrogate Elkins about whether he had ever had an affair. Contrary to the police's expectations, Elkins has now admitted that he had an extramarital relationship over 30 years ago, but he said that it was so long ago that he has even forgotten the appearance of that woman. The police then took out a DNA sampling device, and it is noteworthy that DNA testing technology has developed and can be very helpful in criminal investigations. They requested Elkins to provide a DNA sample to determine whether the fetus of the woman in the barrel was Elkins. However, Elkins refused this request and invited the police to leave his home. In the laboratory, the restoration of evidence in the steel barrel is still ongoing. The forensic laboratory technicians have successfully recovered part of the information in the address book. One of the pages clearly listed Mr. Elkins' name with a phone number behind it, but it was not possible to contact him. Moreover, on another page of the address book there was a name, Kathy Andrade, and a phone number below it. They tried to contact her, and this time they were lucky enough to successfully reach the girl named Kathy. The police described the whole story to her. After listening, Kathy confirmed that the woman in the barrel was Reina from El Salvador. 30 years ago, Kathy and Reina were both English teachers and were very close. Reina had come to New York alone in 1966, when she was only 26 years old, and rented an apartment there. Shortly after Reina found a job at a plastic flower manufacturing company, she had a wonderful personality, always listening to her parents' opinions before making decisions. Reina was very passionate about her work and aspired to become a U.S. citizen one day. Before disappearing, Reina told Kathy that she was pregnant but did not reveal who the father was. Kathy only knew that the man was married with 3 children. When Kathy asked, Reina said that he would marry her. One time, Reina received a call from the man who said he had no intention of marrying her. Right after the call, Reina called the man's wife and told her everything. The man then called Reina back angrily, threatening to kill her. Reina was very distraught and called Kathy to confide in her. Kathy was very worried, so she quickly went to Reina's apartment. The door was unlocked, but Reina was not home. Kathy waited for 3 hours trying to contact Reina in every way but could not reach her. Finally, Kathy went to the police, but did not mention the threatening phone call, fearing it would damage Reina's reputation. Reina's disappearance became an unsolved case that dragged on for over 30 years until the truth was eventually revealed. After hearing Kathy's story, the police believed that Elkins was the mysterious man who had an affair with Reina. That night, Elkins lured her to a factory and killed her. He then transported Reina's body to his home, intending to dump it in the sea. To ensure the container holding the body would sink, he filled it with plastic products from his own company. However, he miscalculated the weight, which reached 160 kilograms, too heavy for him to move onto a boat alone. In desperation, he placed the steel container in his basement, hoping it would not be discovered. Finally, the secret 4th homeowner of Elkins exposed the truth. The police listed Elkins as the prime suspect and quickly obtained a warrant to collect his DNA sample. However, when the police arrived, Elkins' wife said he had disappeared. Elkins was eventually found to have committed suicide in his garage, with blood spattered around the seat and a gun beside him. The DNA test results confirmed the police's suspicion. Elkins' DNA matched 99.93% with the fetus in Reina's belly. After the truth was revealed, a reporter named Oscar Corral reported the case on the Newsday website. He also tried to find and contact the victim, Reina's relatives. Finally, he found her 95-year-old mother who had the greatest dream of her life, to see her daughter again as she had been missing for over 30 years. However, Reina had to pay the ultimate price, her life, for this love triangle. What are your thoughts on this case? Please comment below the description so we can discuss together. If you find it interesting, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel to support us. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.